Hey everyone, welcome back. Go ahead and get comfortable. Maybe dim the lights, fluff your pillow, and get that cup of chamomile tea you've been pretending to enjoy. Because tonight, we're drifting back to the early 20th century. A time when everyone wore uncomfortable collars, women's hats had entire birds on them, and Europe was one big family reunion that should have been canceled decades earlier. And yes, tonight we're talking about that war. The one your history teacher said changed everything. The one that started because one guy got shot in a car, but somehow ended with millions dead, an entire generation traumatized, and 4 empires collapsing like wet cardboard. Welcome to World War I, the war that changed everything. Or, as some of the people who lived through it called it, the Great War. Because, when you have no idea what's coming next, it's easy to be optimistic. Let's set the scene. It's the early 1900s. Europe looks peaceful, on the surface. Everyone's got their little empires, their colonies, their uniforms with way too much gold thread. Kings and emperors are basically running a continent-wide cosplay competition. We've got King George V in Britain. Looks like he's perpetually smelling something unpleasant. Kaiser Wilhelm II in Germany, George's cousin, who is trying very hard to compensate for something, and spoiler, it's his left arm. Tsar Nicholas II in Russia, also a cousin because, of course, he is, and Emperor Franz Joseph in Austria-Hungary, who's been ruling so long people have forgotten what a new emperor even looks like. They all know each other. They all send each other letters. They all call each other nicknames like Nicky and Willie. And yet, somehow, they're about to start one of the bloodiest wars in history over an assassination they had nothing to do with. Because what's a family gathering without a little murder, right? The powder keg. Europe at this point was basically a room full of gas lamps and one guy holding a match. And that match was nationalism. Every country wanted to prove it was the best, the bravest, the most civilized, the most industrialized, and of course the most likely to ruin everyone else's day. Germany was the new kid on the block, unified only since 1871, and they were feeling spicy. They had new factories, a shiny new army, and Wilhelm, the aforementioned cousin with the arm problem, and a talent for making everything worse. Wilhelm had been born with a damaged left arm, a result of a traumatic birth. And maybe that shaped him a bit, because he spent his life trying to be the most powerful man in the world. He also had an unfortunate habit of saying things like, "Give me a navy worthy of Germany," which sounds impressive until you realize it terrified literally everyone in Britain. Meanwhile, Britain was sitting on its global empire, the classic "don't talk to me or my colonies ever again" attitude. France was still mad about losing to Germany in 1871, because nothing heals national humiliation like holding a grudge for half a century. Russia was lumbering along like a bear on roller skates, trying to modernize without collapsing. And Austria-Hungary, oh, Austria-Hungary, was a patchwork empire of different ethnic groups who all hated each other, but were held together by one old man with impressive facial hair. So yes, things were tense. The Balkans. Because of course. Let's float down south to the Balkans, that eternally overcomplicated corner of Europe where borders changed more often than fashion trends. Here's the short version. The Ottoman Empire, also known as the sick man of Europe, had been slowly losing territory. The Balkan nations, Serbia, Bulgaria, Greece, and a few others, were like kids fighting over who gets the last slice of pizza. Serbia, in particular, was feeling ambitious, dreaming of uniting all the Slavic people in the region under their flag, which was a problem, because Austria-Hungary happened to contain quite a few of those same Slavs, and they weren't exactly happy about being ruled by Vienna. So, When Serbia started getting loud about pan-Slavism, Austria-Hungary got nervous. And by nervous, I mean paranoid. Enter Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne. He wasn't exactly beloved, but he had some radical ideas like, hey, maybe we should give these Slavic people more autonomy. Which, would have been nice. Unfortunately, he decided to visit Sarajevo in 1914, right in the middle of a region that hated his empire's guts. And of course, he did it on the anniversary of a historic Serbian defeat, because why not double down? June 28, 1914. The spark. So, Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie are driving through Sarajevo in an open car, waving, smiling, trying not to notice that half the crowd looks like they'd rather be somewhere else. Waiting along the route are several members of a secret Serbian nationalist group called the Black Hand. They've got bombs, guns, and, let's be honest, very little coordination. The first assassin throws a grenade, which bounces off the car and explodes under the next one. Franz is shaken, but fine. He actually yells at the governor, "So, this is how you welcome your guests?" Which fair. They change the route to avoid danger, but no one tells the driver. Later, as the car's engine sputters along the wrong street, one of the would-be assassins, a 19-year-old named Gavrilo Princip, just happens to be standing there, outside a deli, probably thinking about how badly the morning went. And then, suddenly, the car stops right in front of him. He pulls out his gun, and he fires. Franz Ferdinand and Sophie are both hit. They die within minutes. And that, as they say, was that. Except, of course, it wasn't. Because this wasn't just one man's death. It was the match in a room full of gas lamps. The domino effect. Austria-Hungary blames Serbia. Naturally. Even though there's no proof the Serbian government itself planned the attack, they kind of winked and looked the other way about groups like the Black Hand. So, Austria-Hungary decides to send Serbia an ultimatum, a deliberately harsh list of demands that they know Serbia can't possibly accept. Basically, let us investigate your country and arrest whoever we want. Serbia agrees to most of it, but not all. And that's all Austria-Hungary needs. They declare war on July 28, 1914. But remember, everyone's in an alliance with someone else. Russia jumps in to defend Serbia because Slavic Brotherhood and all that. Germany, backing Austria-Hungary, tells Russia to stand down. Russia doesn't. Germany declares war on Russia. France, allied with Russia, mobilizes. Germany declares war on France, too. Then Germany invades Belgium to get to France. Because why take the direct route when you can commit an international crime? And Britain, who had promised to protect Belgium's neutrality, declares war on Germany. In a matter of days, the entire continent is on fire. Everyone's going to war. Here's the wild part. People were excited. In the summer of 1914, crowds cheered in the streets. Men lined up to enlist, imagining glory, adventure, and maybe a nice uniform for the photos. No one realized what was coming. The trenches, the gas, the endless mud. Because no one had ever fought a war like this before. The Industrial Revolution had changed everything. Now war wasn't just bravery and horses, it was machines, barbed wire, and shells that could erase entire battalions. The Schlieffen Plan, Germany's terrible shortcut. Germany's plan was, well, plan might be a generous word. It was called the Schlieffen Plan, and the idea was simple. Defeat France quickly by sweeping through Belgium, then turn east to face Russia, who, being Russia, would take a while to mobilize. What could go wrong? Well, Belgium. Belgium went wrong. They resisted, fiercely, which delayed the Germans and made Britain very angry. The British Expeditionary Force arrived in France, and suddenly Germany was stuck fighting on two fronts anyway. The war bogged down fast. The grand movements of armies gave way to trenches. Long, endless lines of mud, rats, and misery, stretching from the North Sea to Switzerland. By Christmas of 1914, it was clear that this was not going to be a quick war. Life in the trenches. Let's pause here for a second. Imagine it. You're 20 years old, you've been promised glory, and instead you're living in a ditch. Your boots are rotting, it smells like wet socks and fear, and your commanding officer keeps telling you the next offensive will break the stalemate. Spoiler,